Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everybody, and welcome to Pangolin, the conservation podcast, the show dedicated to exploring and amplifying the world's underappreciated conservation stories. The stories that inspire me, and I hope will inspire you too. I'm your host, Jack Baker, and today I am here to talk about something very exciting in this extra special bonus episode. So, to take you back, a few months ago, I was contacted by Chester Zoo, who asked me to take part in producing their Changemakers Toolkit. This fabulous resource is amazing. It is basically a guide to everything you need to know to be involved in the conservation space. So whether you're interested in craftivism, in protesting, in looking after yourself and your kind of well-being, or whether you're interested in podcasting. How can I not forget the most important one? If you're interested in podcasting or any of these sorts of things, all of that information they've put together in this beautiful online resource for everybody to access, and it's fantastic. So yeah, as I say, I produce the podcasting section. There's resources on there about how to produce a podcast, how to come up with a name, how to do all of these things. And what you're about to hear is actually part of a podcast series that I put together for them as well. So the podcast series basically teaches you how to podcast. It goes through microphones, it goes through naming and all of these kind of different things, and recording and editing and all sorts of stuff. And this is the final episode. It's called I Am a Changemaker, and it is about how I came up with the idea for the podcast. It's about how I produce the podcast, lessons I've learned, things that I've done, and kind of, a little bit of my story, which I thought was interesting for you guys to hear as well, and might give you a little hook into getting in and wanting to produce your own podcast as well, and going to check out the toolkit and all of those amazing things. Before I go, I will of course say the toolkit will be linked in the description below, so go and have a look. Also, on the previous episode of the podcast, we had the amazing Emma Greenwood, who kind of talks about the production of the podcast. She put in a huge amount of work into it. And on the next episode of the show, we'll have the incredible Lyndon Houston from the Chester Zoo Youth Board. So he'll be here to talk about all of the other amazing work that Chester Zoo do. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that as well. Having said all of that, I will let this episode play. I hope you enjoy. I hope you enjoy learning some of the lessons that I have. And do make sure and go and check out the podcast. The Changemakers podcast is available on all streaming services, so go and have a look. Subscribe, give us a 5-star review, subscribe to this podcast, leave us a 5-star review here. Clearly high quality content as I stumble over my words again and again. And yeah, go and follow us on social media if you have any questions about podcasting, at Pangolin Podcast on everything, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all of those things. Go and do that. Where I'm at The Only Jack Baker as well on Instagram if you have any questions, and I'm available on LinkedIn and all these things. So always more than happy to help. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this very special bonus episode. Thank you for listening. Hello and welcome to the Chester Zoo Conservation Changemakers Toolkit. My name is Jack Baker and I'm the host of Pangolin, the conservation podcast. In this short series, I'm going to be teaching you everything you need to know about how to create a nature podcast. And in this, the final episode, I'm going to be sharing my journey into podcasting, where the idea came from, and how I have put everything we've talked about so far to use. We'll talk about some of the frustrations, some of the good things, some of the confusing things, some of the things that I learned, and ultimately all of the rewarding things that have happened because I started a podcast as well, because it has just been the most incredible journey. So without further ado, let's get started. And welcome to the final episode of the series. My name is Jack Baker. I'm the host of Pangolin, the conservation podcast. And if this is your first time here, thank you so much. Go back and listen to everything else I've said, because by this stage, I have taught you everything you should need to know about podcasting. We've talked about coming up with a concept, how you develop it into a real kind of idea and a plan, how you can kind of create audio kind of content through what microphones you need, what content, what kind of recording platforms you need, and then how you can advertise your show and get it out there in front of the right audiences. And now I've reflected a little bit throughout this process about things that kind of I've done and things that I've kind of worked on. But today, I'm going to tell you the whole journey, right? How did we get through? Where did we start? Where are we now? And some other lessons that I've learned along the way that haven't really fit into anywhere else. So hopefully all of this will be useful. So, my name is Jack. I was born on the 5th of August 1997 in Scotland, and maybe that's a bit too far back, but I think it's an important starting point because I remember that as long as I can remember, I was the boy who loved nature and dinosaurs. And I think at a certain point in my childhood, I decided that nature was the way to go. Who knows? There could have been a paleontology podcast at some point. There could have been a dinosaur-focused podcast at some point, but it never happened. I went down this nature route, and I was very, very lucky that I was able to be in nature a lot when I was younger. I was in kind of the Scouts, and I was in kind of all of these things that enabled me to be in green spaces, and I was always happiest when I was disappearing up a mountain or on a walk, or whether that be by myself or with friends. I found refuge in nature, and I found a place in nature where I belonged, and I was really, really, really happy. And I think as I grew up, that nature connection to nature, I think as it does for a lot of people, it faded. Not because I didn't love it as much, not because I wasn't as interested, but because, and I guess if you're listening to this, you might relate to it. But because when you go into school, you're told to do subjects you're good at, you're told to do things that you can pass, and you're told to do things that will be good for a job in the future. And a lot of the time, nature-related things, whether that be education, zoo-related jobs, biology-related jobs, that just wasn't the case. Zoology-related jobs was not the case for me. I was told that was not going to be what I do. I was good at modern studies in school, which it was like politics and stuff like that. That's what I was good at, so that's what I would do. And yeah, went through school, that kind of connection faded a little bit. It remained in parts when I was able to go out into nature. I always loved it. I always felt peace, and it always removed me from the stress of life, because I just felt serene listening to the bird song. But it just kind of, drifted away. And then when I went to university, I had kind of been told to do something you're good at. And I did this thing where I was good getting good grades, so I went into international relations and studied that, and that was fine, and I was good. However, alongside that, I also got a job at an aquarium, and I found the most passion and joy in my week came not from the 5 days of learning at university, but from the 2 days I got to spend talking to people at the aquarium about fish and starfish and seals and nurdles and pollution and climate change and ocean-based conservation issues. That's where my passion lied, and that's where I felt the most alive. And I remember my family always being like, well, you need to quit that job because it takes so much of your time. Would it not be better doing something that takes less time, or maybe focusing on your studies for a while? And I remember thinking you're correct. Probably it would be better to focus on my studies for a while, but the 2 days of the week I actually enjoy are the ones where I'm working extra long hours and doing things, because that's where my heart was. And I just loved it so, so, so much. And I got to the end of my undergrad and I passed. I was very lucky. I passed my undergrad degree. And I kind of got to this stage, right, where it was give up the aquarium job, go and do something that, in air quotes, grown-ups would do a grown-up job. And I had this degree, and I was kind of looking at what can I do? What can I do? And I then got to my master's. I got to this point, right, where I was like, I could do a master's in something more relevant to conservation and nature things, or I could go off and do a boring grown-up job. Which, no offense to people who do boring grown-up jobs, we need you all in the fight for conservation, but I knew I wouldn't be happy. And the winter between kind of my undergrad and my master's level, I went to the Highland Wildlife Park up in Scotland, and I was stood in the mountains. And that year, little wee Hamish was born, a baby polar bear, and I remember being stood in complete silence with no one around, looking at this baby polar bear and having this sense of joy and realizing then, this is where I'm meant to be. I'm not meant to be in an office, and that's great for some people, but that's not for me. I'm not meant to be here in that kind of space. I'm meant to be here, and I'm meant to be in nature. I'm meant to be doing things, because things like wee Hamish and all of the wonderful nature of the Highlands of Scotland is what I love and what I want to protect and what I want to spend the rest of my life talking to people about. So at that point, I went and did a master's in, I was like, gave up looking for a job, decided I was going to do a master's in conservation, went and did that. And it was actually an interdisciplinary degree, which meant we got training in things like podcasting. And when I got into this kind of space, I kind of, as I said in the first episode, right, I kind of was working and doing all these things, and it was great and it was whatever. And I'd never really thought about doing a podcast until this training started to come up, and until at the end of the year, I was told, you can either write a very long dissertation or you can do a creative portfolio of work. And I knew at that point, I was like, now's the time. Let's do a podcast. Let's make it about the pangolin. Let's do something unique and special, because that's what I'm passionate about. And yeah, I kind of was lucky at that stage, right? Because I was able to kind of create kind of an excuse to email people to get them to be guests on the show. I was able to come up with my own cover art. I was able to come up with like posters and episode descriptions, all sorts of fun, creative things for this thing that I just never thought would be real, right? Because as far as I was concerned at that point, I was creating 6 episodes of a podcast that were about a pangolin to help raise awareness of the plight of the pangolin, clarify some things that were being thrown around that weren't true, and that was that. Right? Like, that was all it was going to be. It would be submitted to a magical inbox in the sky, get a grade, and that would be it. And so, yeah, I produced this podcast, submitted it. It got the grade back. I was really happy with the grade, and it came back. It was really, really nice. And yeah, and then life went on because I had submitted it to university. It had been graded, and that was that. It got to the point where I was kind of like, I spent all this time working on something. Maybe I should actually use it for something. So I took the files that I had, and I, as I said in the final kind of the last episode, I just uploaded them to Spotify for creators for free. Thought nothing of it. Posted about it on social media a little bit. Created some podcast accounts. Posted about them. Didn't really think about it. And people listened. And then more people listened, and then more people listened, and then there were people subscribing and liking and commenting and sharing, and I was like, maybe there's something in this. And then I had to do a lot of hard work because I didn't have a guide of things to do. I then had to retroactively work out, what is this podcast going to be? Who's it for? What's the audience? Is it going to be really academic? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be da-da-da-da-da? And pull all this stuff together. And I decided I would produce a second series that was going to be about kind of just a wide range of stories. I was going to take the pangolin name and expand it and be like, well, the pangolin is the perfect representative of underappreciated, misunderstood stories. But there are so many more out there. So in season 2, we talked about bison, and we talked about animal welfare with dogs in Bangladesh, and we talked about all kinds of just really diverse conservation, animal, nature-related issues. And kind of, yeah, it kind of, from there on out, it grew again, and it grew again, and it grew again, and it grew again. And opportunities started coming up with like the Chester Zoo Youth Summit to go and talk to that. And I always credit that as one of the first things that I did that made me feel like it mattered. And it just felt like so wonderful. And like it enabled me to meet so many incredible people and network and get the podcast in front of more relevant people. And it was just so fantastic because it validated that all this work that I had done was being listened to and being kind of engaged with. And then after that, it just kept kind of growing, where like organizations like the Lemur Conservation Network started reaching out to me and asking, do you want to collaborate on a series for us? I was given awards by the North American Association for Environmental Education for my work, and BIASA gave me a kind of award for the work. And it just kind of grew all of these arms and legs beyond all my wildest dreams. And it's reached 120 countries and it's done all these things. And I'm so happy with how it had grown. But having said all that, that makes it sound like a very easy journey. Like there was no lessons learned, that I just uploaded it and nothing, happened beyond that. But it was difficult at points. I remember when I was first producing the podcast, for example, the person agreed, or a marker at the University of St Andrews told me that I would never get anywhere in conservation because I was too cheery and positive and I was childish and this was a serious field and you had to be serious in it and and all these things. And that completely demotivated me and it made me feel awful. And I imagine a lot of people have had that experience, right? Where you're passionate about something and you're just told to shut up and be quiet. And it made me so angry and so demotivated and so upset. And it took my supervisor kind of having a talk with me and being like, listen, they're talking rubbish. The childlike joy that's inside you, right? Like, that's what matters, right? That's what kind of like is unique and special about you. And I imagine that a lot of you feel that, right? Of like, you have this joy and this passion. And if you're in this tool, you're looking for the Chester's Toolkit, you're looking for a way to make a difference. But you've probably also faced people telling you, no, it's not going to happen. It is going to happen. And if you can protect the joy or the passion or the thing that makes it unique, that's what makes you special and that's what makes you powerful, because the world is trying to take that away from you all the time, because for a variety of reasons. But don't let it go out. Don't let that flame disappear, because that's what makes it special. I think another thing that kind of has been, on my mind as something that to mention is like, a lot of people, I think when I started the podcast, like I felt like, oh, like, am I even worthy of this? Should I be doing this? Is this something that like people are going to be interested in listening in or being interviewed on? And I had this kind of major imposter syndrome. I didn't feel like I was good enough. I didn't feel like I was going to have guests. And if you're out there feeling that, trust me, it is not the case. It is not the case at all. You are good enough. And only in actually doing it did I realize that I was good enough. Like in emailing organizations, it takes a lot to email an organization and ask for an interview guest. But in doing that, you realize that a lot of people need people to communicate their stories, and a lot of people want to talk, and a lot of people want to be interviewed. So if you have the confidence to get over that kind of initial hurdle and send the email to the person you want to talk to, whether it be a personal hero or a personal organization that you love, or a group that you love, or a community you want to advertise to, the response is always so warm and so nice. And within the conservation field, if you're nervous about interviewing, right, you've gotten past sending that email and you feel like, oh, I'm still an imposter. You sit down on a Zoom call with someone, you sit down on a Teams call with someone and you talk to them. They are so lovely all the time and they're so happy to be there to just ramble about their like, work and like talk to you and go back and forth. You don't even have to be an expert. I'm not an expert on half the topics. I'm not an expert on 1 in 10 of the topics that I have on the podcast, 1 in 20 of the topics I have on the podcast. That's what the experts are there for. But if you ask questions from a place of just like joy and excitement, you always have an exciting, interesting conversation. Yeah, I think the other thing that like comes up a lot, so you kind of have this kind of like keeping hold of the joy, you have dealing with this imposter syndrome. I think another thing that comes up is motivation. And something that I've realized is that I cannot produce a podcast every week like some people can. And that's okay. Set yourself achievable goals. So when I collaborate with an organization, I tell them I'm doing 5 or 6 episodes. That's it. Like I can't do more than that anymore because I don't have the time with work and with everything else. And what you don't want to happen is push yourself so hard that you hate podcasting, right? You become so sick of it, you're bored of it. Take the time for you. Breathe, relax, take a step away. Like, do the podcast that you want to do and you're excited about doing, and no more. Maybe 1 or 2 more to do advertising or something, but don't push yourself too hard. Try and keep things achievable. Like, you will only become a changemaker if you have the batteries to get to the very, very end of that fight. And without if you expire your battery too soon, you're not going to be able to make the long-term effect that you want to make. It is a marathon, not a sprint. It's a very common phrase, but it is a marathon, not a sprint. You have to keep yourself and your batteries in check. Yeah. And I guess the last kind of piece of advice and thing like struggle that I've faced is knowing how much of myself to put into the podcast. And I think that's something that I just want to encourage you to be authentically you, but also know that everyone's going to listen. And it's a hard balance to strike. And it took me years to become comfortable. So I remember when I was at university, being not confident to be entirely me on the show, because I thought, this is an academic thing. And then when it became bigger than that, I thought, I don't want to be more than me on the podcast, more than just interview bubbly Jack on the show, because I don't want people to know about me. And I don't want people to know about my story. And I don't want people to know about who I am necessarily. I want them to know about the projects we're dealing with, right? And we're talking about. But in doing that, and over time, I realized I'm being kind of ingenuine there. And I'm telling people to be themselves. And I'm telling people everyone belongs in the conservation space. And I'm telling people everybody needs to be, one thing and be themselves in this. And I'm not doing that for me. And so the one thing I would kind of leave you with is some of the most encouraging and wonderful and lovely things and the most embraced I've ever felt by my community is when I am 100% authentically myself on the show. Don't hide your excitement. Don't hide parts of you. If you are brave and bold enough and you feel safe enough, be authentically you. The most rewarding series, for example, that I've ever released was Pangolin Pride. So 2024, in June, I released 7 episodes where I interviewed LGBTQ plus people from across the conservation space. And those guests, being so authentically themselves, provided such a safe space for me, provided heroes for me, provided love and attention and just warmth for me, and just made me feel good and made me feel valid. And those guests inspired me to be more myself, and in being more myself and them being more their selves, and talking about personal things to do with pride and to do with their struggles as LGBTQ plus people in the conservation space. In doing that, the audience also was so much more engaged and so loved it so much and found strength and heroes, and it was just so rewarding. So be authentically you. And yeah, be honest about the struggles you go through, as I hope I've been now. Having said that, and having said the struggles and having said all these things, podcasting is the best thing that has ever happened to my life. Podcasting has enabled me to travel to conferences all around the world. I've been to the US a couple times, to London. I have been able to record episodes across Europe at events in England and Scotland and all over the place. Amazing, amazing, amazing things. I've been able to connect with friends that I hope to have for a lifetime. I've been able to meet amazing people. I've been able to tell amazing stories. I've been able to kind of see value in a lot of the work that I do. I've been able to talk to people around the world. I've been able to have people around the world talk to me and tell me their stories. I've been able to network and find jobs opportunities. I've been able to find job opportunities for friends. I've been able to do so many amazing, amazing, amazing things. And if I can leave you, I guess, I keep saying this, but if I could leave you with one thing, is if you are right on the precipice of starting a podcast, just do it. Put yourself out there, make a big statement, create something that is personal and beautiful and you, and it'll just be the best and the most rewarding thing. And know, if no one else listens, you have a fan in me, right? People they will come. But in those first days or in those first hours where you're worried if someone will review it badly or people will not kind of come, I will be your fan. I will be your cheerleader. I will love what you do, and the others will follow. And I will be so glad that I was cheering you on from the very beginning, because you are fantastic. Please, yes. Having said that, please go and subscribe to Pangolin the Conservation Podcast. Follow me on social media at Pangolin Podcast and tell me if you make a podcast, because I want to know. Good luck finding your voice. Good luck creating content that everybody wants to listen to. You are going to do amazing. I'm so happy. Go and find the rest of the Conservation Changemakers Toolkit. Go and learn more about kind of all of the other amazing things and hear all the amazing stories. I flicked through the videos and things and I'm so inspired. So go and do all of that. It is in the description of this episode. And yeah, having said all of that, Thank you so much for joining us on this short journey through podcasting. And goodbye.